Welcome back to Album Impressions, where every month or so, I give my extended thoughts on something that I've been listening to recently. This time around, it's gonna be Arcade Fire's fourth studio album, Reflektor. Now, to be honest, I'm not too familiar with Arcade Fire's discography. I've listened to The Suburbs, but as an album, not really. Mostly just singular songs from it. Now, let's see. As for the album cover, it's a statue of Orpheus and Eurydice, and I'll get back to that later. It has some significance later on in the album. Also, it's a double album, and I'll share my thoughts on that a little bit later. And one more note before I do a track by track. I'm a little disappointed in the CD case. It's really badly made. For an album that's somewhat about promoting like the physical release, they did a pretty lackluster job. So the album starts with a nice glitchy sounding sample that leads into this harsh drum beat with some African-style drums in the background. It creates this really like cryptic feel right away, but it's kinda dancey too. This is an incredibly interesting track, especially for the first listen. It really pulled me in the first time, and it continues to pull me in and makes me want to listen to the whole album every time I listen to it. This is what a first track should do. It perfectly nails that. This is one of the best tracks on here. I mean, this track has everything. It's got this hypnotic disco influenced beat that creates this tense feeling. It's got deep and intriguing lyrics sung by Win Butler and some Latin lyrics sung by his wife Regine Chassagne. Got that wrong. It's got this simple but beautiful piano solo midway, only to blast right back into the chaos of that chorus. It's got a cameo by David Bowie at the end. I don't like using this word a lot, but this song is epic. It's got a simple enough musical premise, but it keeps it varied enough to definitely earn that 7.5 minute runtime. Those drum beats kind of slowly fade away and kind of decay, and there's some silence, and 3 big guitar chords, and we're right back into it. This one has a similar groove to Reflektor. It's definitely not as good, and it doesn't use the long runtime to its advantage like in Reflektor, but it's nonetheless good. Through some assumption and some research, I found that the meaning is like about acknowledging gay people or in society or something like that. It doesn't really seem to fit into the concept well lyrically, but musically it does work really well. This one starts abruptly, but it instantly takes you into the environment of like this cave or something. Everything is super echoey, like any sound that they make repeats across like a long distance over and over again. That's one thing Arcade Fire's really good at, making cave sound. No. Creating a feeling in music that can be associated with a place or environment in real life. This one creates a great outdoorsy, spring-like vibe. In this one, they also toy around with that sense of environment by practically flipping the switch to nighttime. Again, this one's a little less deserving of the 6.5 minute runtime, but at least they mix it up enough. They've got the, like, high-energy versions of the song at the bookends, so I suppose there's enough variance, but again, it doesn't work as well. This one comes in from nighttime with like a strange live sounding intro where he like thanks the audience for coming out and he asks them if they like rock and roll music. It all just sounds kinda awkward. Otherwise, this is a really good track. It's probably the best one since Reflektor. It's a simple rock song about like conformity, and there's a nice touch here which is the repetition of the lyrics from We Exist. Those lines are borrowed from We Exist, which I find really interesting. Again, with this one, they start with a really strange live intro. This one's a little more forgivable, mostly because it's quicker and it just sounds more like genuine. I'm pretty sure they actually used this sound sample from a real live show. The whole song sounds kind of tongue-in-cheek, but the guitar's really good, and they got that simple riff that gets stuck in my head a lot. This one starts kinda punky, and I wish the song stayed like that, honestly. But maybe I shouldn't complain, this is a fantastic one. This one again is essentially about like rebellion and nonconformity. The verses are all filler at best, lackluster at worst, but man, the chorus is just so darn catchy. After he says Joan of Arc, the little bit of French thrown in by Regine, I just couldn't help but put a smile on my face the first time I heard it. And the first disc ends with some 30 seconds of radio static.